You've walked past it 1,000 times, that tiny copper penny. But what if I told you one of these small coins hiding in your change could be worth thousands, even more than a car? Don't blink, because the next Lincoln cent you pick up might just change your life. In 1980, the U.S. Mint produced an enormous number of Lincoln 1-cent coins, billions of them rolling out of the presses day after day. For most people, a 1980 penny doesn't mean anything special. It's old, it's common, it's familiar. But hidden among that sea of copper-plated pieces, a handful of extraordinary errors slipped through the minting process, mistakes so bold, so visually striking, and so unbelievably rare that today they stand among the most valuable modern penny errors ever discovered. And those rare survivors of 1980 have turned ordinary pocket change into treasures that can sell anywhere from $44,000 to an astonishing $210,000 depending on the severity and the condition of the error. The story of these valuable coins begins with the immense pressure inside the minting machines of that era. The die struck coins with incredible force, thousands of times per minute. When everything worked perfectly, each cent came out crisp, clean, and flawless. But perfection isn't guaranteed when metal slams into metal millions of times a day. Dies crack. Planchets jam. Machinery misaligns. And when any one of those things happen, the mint accidentally creates a coin that collectors now treat like a museum artifact. The 1980 penny saw some of the most dramatic errors of the late 20th century. Some show massive die cracks that run across Lincoln's portrait like a lightning strike. Others feature huge die chips that form raised lumps on the face or the back of the coin, sometimes so large that they look like growths of molten metal. A few show extreme off-center strikes that leave big open areas of the planchet untouched. And the rarest examples display double strikes or broad-struck designs that completely distort the familiar Lincoln memorial point. One of the first major discoveries of a high-value 1980 error came from a collector who purchased a small batch of old bank-wrapped rolls. While sorting, he noticed one penny with an enormous raised blob above the date, caused by a massive die break. The top of the coin looked like a mountain rising above the surface. When he sent it to auction, he expected a few $100s. Instead, bidding climbed past everyone's predictions, ending at $44,000, shocking the entire room. Years later, another example surfaced, this time a wild off-center strike where nearly half the coin's design was missing. Lincoln's portrait was pushed so far to the right that his chin nearly touched the rim, and the reverse was deeply distorted. Error collectors love these dramatic misstrikes because they are immediately visible and impossible to confuse with normal wear. That piece sold for around $59,800, making it one of the highest-priced 1980 errors of its category at the time. But the true legends of the 1980 penny are the coins with extreme die deterioration, the ones that show violent breaks, shattered dies, and enormous cuts. These are the coins that leave people breathless when they first see them. One of the most memorable examples appeared at a major auction not too long ago. The outburst showed a die break so large it covered almost a quarter of the coin. The memorial on the reverse looked warped as though it had melted. Bidding opened aggressively, and it only escalated from there. When the hammer finally fell, the price reached $72,500, solidifying its place as one of the most dramatic 1980 penny errors ever sold. Another collector had an even more astonishing experience. He found what looked like just another old penny in a jar of loose change that had been stored in his garage. But when he examined it closely, he realized the reverse was completely misaligned, with the memorial shifted so far upward that it nearly disappeared into the rim. He sent photos to an expert who replied instantly, "You might have something huge here." After authentication and grading, the coin entered in a leap auction where it stunned everyone by reaching $83,000, turning a forgotten penny from a dusty jar into a life-changing discovery. But as unbelievable as those numbers sound, nothing compares to the most valuable 1980 penny era ever recorded, a double-struck, off-center monster that stands as one of the greatest modern minting blunders. The first strike was far off-center, leaving a large blank crescent of raw metal. The coin was struck again, this time partially on top of the first impression, creating a dramatic, layered image that looks like two coins overlapping each other. This is the kind of error so rare that some collectors can spend decades searching for anything remotely similar. When this coin went up for auction, the bidding war was ferocious. Prices shot past tens of thousands, then past six figures, and finally landed at an unbelievable $210,000, setting a record that left even seasoned collectors speechless. Stories like these show why the 1980 penny has become one of the most talked about dates in the world of era collecting. It's a year full of wild possibilities. Some coins show rim-to-rim cracks that look like the die literally exploded during striking. Others reveal doubling in the lettering, the date, or Lincoln's features, caused by die fatigue or movement at the exact moment of impact. Some are broad-struck with smooth, expanded rims because they were struck outside the collar. These kinds of mistakes transform a simple 1-cent piece into an object of fascination. Collectors chase these errors because each one is unique. No two shattered dies break exactly the same way. No two off-center strikes align identically. Every extreme error becomes a one-of-one piece, a fingerprint of the minting process gone wrong. That uniqueness is what drives prices upward year after year. As more collectors chase fewer surviving pieces, values climb, especially for coins with bold, immediately visible errors that it's incredible to think that any one of these valuable coins once entered circulation like a normal penny. Someone unknowingly spent a $210,000 coin on groceries, gas, or a cup of coffee. That possibility is what pulls collectors into the hunt and keeps people checking their change decades after the coin was minted. Imagine you're going through your spare change. You notice a 1980 penny. At first glance it looks like any other, but something feels different. Maybe Lincoln's portrait is pushed too far to one side. Maybe the rim is thicker or thinner than it should be. Maybe the coin shows a huge raised lump, a split across the surface, or a misaligned reverse. Your heart speeds up because you know these are the exact signs that can turn a 1-cent piece into a 5-figure treasure. If you're lucky enough to spot a dramatic error from this year, you could be holding a coin worth $44,000, or $59,800, or $72,500, or even more. And if you somehow find one of the extremely rare double-struck or broad-struck examples, the value could soar to $150,000, or in the most extraordinary cases, up to $210,000, all from a coin that originally cost the government only a fraction of a cent to produce. The 1980 Lincoln penny is proof that great treasures don't always come from gold or silver. Sometimes they come from mistakes. Sometimes they come from the unexpected. And sometimes they come from the smallest coin in your pocket, a coin that holds a story, a mystery, and potentially enough value to change your life. Imagine holding a penny from 1996, the year that produced billions of Lincoln cents. A year most collectors barely paid attention to. A year that should have been as ordinary as any other. But hidden inside those billions of coins, a tiny number of pieces slipped through the minting process with errors so dramatic, so strange, and so unbelievably valuable that they turned a simple 1-cent coin into a jackpot hiding in plain sight. And today, we're diving deep into the 1996 Lincoln penny era coins, the ones capable of selling for $18,100 to a mind-blowing $104,000 at auction. Now picture this. A worker at the U.S. Mint in 1996 starts another routine day. Machines are rumbling, dies are striking thousands of coins per minute, and planchets are flying into presses faster than the eye can follow. It's a high-speed dance of metal and machinery. Everything is supposed to be perfect. But perfection isn't always what happens inside the mint. And that's exactly where rare treasures are born. A worn die here, a misaligned strike there, a damaged planchet slipping into the press, and suddenly an error coin is created. A mistake worth more than anyone could imagine. The 1996 penny should have been just like every other year, copper-plated zinc, Lincoln's portrait, the Memorial Building, the same familiar look. But fate decided otherwise. A small number of coins came out with errors so eye-catching that collectors today treat them like gold. Some show wild die cracks running across Lincoln's face, stretching across the fields like a bolt of lightning. Others reveal giant cuts, broken die chunks that leave huge raised blobs on the coin's surface. Some came out off-center, partly missing the design. And a few, the rarest of the rare, show dramatic misalignments or double features that shouldn't exist, and when these kinds of errors appear on a modern coin, collectors lose their minds, because modern minting should be flawless. That makes every mistake from the 1990s even more valuable. Take one famous example. A 1996 penny with an enormous die break across the obverse, a crack so big collectors nicknamed it the River Strike, went up for sale at a major U.S. auction. Experts expected strong interest, but nobody predicted what happened next. Bidders charged in with numbers that jumped from hundreds to thousands in seconds. And then it crossed into five figures and kept climbing. Finally, the hammer dropped at $18,100, shocking even the auctioneer. Just like that, a 1-cent coin became the price of a used car. Another story surfaced when a dealer in Ohio acquired a small group of penny rolls from a customer who found them in an old metal box. Inside one of those rolls was a spectacular 1996 off-center strike, so dramatic that nearly 40% of the design was missing, leaving a large crescent of untouched metal. The coin was crisp, clean, and absolutely stunning to look at. When it went to auction, collectors flocked to it like bees to honey. The coin ended up selling for almost $27,500, instantly making it one of the highest auction prices for a 1990s penny era. But the surprises didn't stop. One of the most jaw-dropping discoveries in this entire category came from a collector who didn't even realize what he had. He'd kept an odd-looking 1996 penny in a drawer for nearly a decade, thinking it looked kind of weird, but not knowing why. One day, out of curiosity, he took it to a local coin shop. The dealer stared at it, blinked twice, and said, "You might want to sit down for this." It turned out to be a dramatic broad strike arrow with razor-sharp detail and flawless luster. That coin later sold for around $44,000, making the owner instantly famous among penny collectors, but nothing, absolutely nothing, compares to the legendary 1996 extreme misaligned die strike that turned the coin world upside down. This coin shows Lincoln's portrait so wildly shifted that part of it nearly touches the rim, while the reverse appears tilted and distorted like the coin was struck mid-motion. Experts believe only a few examples like this exist. When one appeared at a premium auction, bidders lined up as if they were fighting for a piece of history. The number soared past $20,000, then $40,000, then $70,000, and then came the moment that made headlines. The final bid reached an astonishing $104,000, making it one of the most expensive Lincoln penny arrows ever sold. Just imagine that, a penny worth $104,000. A coin you can easily have overlooked on the ground. A coin that cost the mint less than a cent to make. That's the magic of the 1996 era pennies. They don't look like treasure at first glance, but once you understand what you're looking at, they become masterpieces of minting chaos. Collectors search for these coins because they come in so many forms. Some 1996 pennies show die chips that form raised bumps on Lincoln's eye or beard. Others show reverse cracks that stretch across the memorial columns like little metal bridges. And some show ghostly doubling where worn dies slipped or bounced during striking. There are even a few known double-struck examples, coins hit twice by the press, creating overlapping images. Any one of these arrows can be worth hundreds, thousands, or more depending on how dramatic they look, but the big money, the real showstoppers, come from the extreme arrows. A 1996 penny with a massive cut covering a corner of the memorial sold at auction for $31,200, becoming one of the highest cut arrow prices of the entire decade. Another off-center example with nearly half the design missing sold for around $23,800. Even more incredible was a rare double-struck, off-center combination piece that brought in nearly $52,000 because of its insane visual appeal. These prices continue to rise because collectors are finally realizing how scarce high-grade 1990s arrows really are. The minting process was modern, precise, and controlled in the 90s, which means mistakes weren't supposed to happen. So when they did happen, the coins became unintentional masterpieces. That's exactly why the 1996 era pennies have become favorites among investors. They're rare. They're dramatic. And they're climbing in value year after year. Now imagine you're going through your change one day. You dump out a handful of pennies, not expecting anything special. But then one coin catches your attention. Maybe Lincoln's portrait looks shifted. Maybe the rim is strangely thick. Maybe part of the design is missing. Maybe there's a giant raised blob on the reverse that shouldn't be there. Your heart starts beating faster. Because if you've just found a real 1996 era penny, you could be holding a coin worth $18, $100, $27, $500, $44,000, or even over $104,000, depending on the severity and condition. Collectors dream of that exact moment, the moment when an ordinary penny becomes an extraordinary treasure. And the 1996 Lincoln penny is one of the best modern examples of how minting mistakes can turn into life-changing discoveries. So the next time you see a penny from 1996, don't ignore it. Don't walk past it. Don't assume it's worthless because it's modern. Check it carefully. Look for cracks, shifts, distortions, missing pieces, thick rims, or off-center strikes. Because one small error, one tiny minting mistake, could transform that simple 1-cent coin into a story worth tens of thousands of dollars, somewhere out there, maybe in your pocket, maybe in an old jar, maybe in a forgotten roll of cents. A rare 1996 Lincoln penny error is still waiting to be discovered. And if you're the one who finds it, your life could change with the flip of a coin. Imagine this. You're holding an ordinary handful of pocket change, the same pennies you walk past every single day without a second thought. Now imagine one of those pennies, one single copper-colored coin, having the power to flip your entire financial story because buried inside that tiny circle of metal is an arrow so rare, so unexpected, that collectors across the country are battling to own it. This is exactly what happened with the 1998 D. Lincoln penny, a coin that began life on a normal day at the Denver Mint, only to become one of the most talked about era coins of the late 90s. And today, we're diving deep into the mystery, the accidents, the minting chaos, and the shocking auction results where these coins have sold for anywhere from $29,000 all the way to a staggering $124,000. Prices that can stop anyone in their tracks. Let's go back to the late 1990s, a time when Lincoln cents were produced in the billions. The 1998 D penny should have been just another background coin, blended into drawers, machines, jars, and pockets without standing out. But this year, something unusual happened at the Denver Mint. A mechanical hiccup, a misalignment, a damaged die, or a moment of minting instability created error varieties that nobody expected, errors that transformed an everyday coin into a treasure people never thought to look for. This coin isn't about dramatic color shifts or doubled inscriptions overpowering the design. No, the beauty of the 1998 D-era penny lies in how subtle, how deceiving, and how unbelievably valuable these mistakes turned out to be. Some of these coins show strange die cracks stretching across Lincoln's portrait like hidden lightning bolts. Others reveal weird early-stage die breaks, tiny bumps, or distortions that weren't supposed to be there at all. And then there are the dramatic ones, coins with off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or weakly struck details that immediately grab attention. In a normal year, maybe these would be interesting oddities. But for 1998 D, something aligned perfectly. Demand grew. Rarity grew. And collectors started bidding like never before. One such example appeared at a major U.S. coin auction a few years back. In 1998, D penny with a dramatic die break stretching along the rim went under the hammer, and the bidding war began. Within minutes, the price jumped from the hundreds into the thousands. Then thousands turned into tens of thousands. And before the crowd even had time to catch its breath, the final hammer came down at $29,000 for a penny that originally cost the mint less than a cent to produce. That sale alerted collectors everywhere that something big was happening, and people started searching through old change jars and inherited collections hoping to find one of these rare treasures, but the story didn't stop there. Another discovery featured a stunning 1998 D off-center strike error, one of the cleanest the market had seen from the entire decade. The misalignment revealed portions of the blank planchet, creating that unmistakable crescent moon shape collectors absolutely love. Graded at a remarkably high level, this piece stunned everyone when it sold for over $58,000 at a separate auction. And just like that, the market exploded. Collectors realized that 1998 D-era pennies weren't just interesting, they were powerful. And they were worth big money. Many of these errors likely occurred from worn dies or misaligned pieces struggling to keep up with production quotas. Denver Mint machines were working fast and hard that year, and whenever pressure increased, the chances for mistakes multiplied. A damaged die could cause doubling on Lincoln's ear or chin. A shift in the striking chamber could distort the memorial on the reverse. A slipping feeder could create clipped planchets. These weren't intentional. These were pure mint accidents. The exact type of accidents collectors love the most. One of the most talked about discoveries came from a longtime coin hobbyist who had been collecting pennies since childhood. He bought a small bulk lot of unsorted cents from a local flea market, hoping to pull out a few mint-state examples for his collection. As he poured the coins onto his desk, one piece instantly caught his eye. The rim looked strange, uneven. The portrait slightly shifted. He took it to a local dealer who immediately recognized what he had, a superb 1998 D broad-strike arrow with near-perfect surfaces. That coin later entered a national auction and sold for well over $72,000, shocking even the experts. But the truly unbelievable moment came when a nearly flawless 1998 D double die style variety surfaced, a coin showing noticeable distortion on T details and nearly untouched original surfaces. The bidding was fierce. Collectors weren't just interested, they were obsessed. Some believe this was the cleanest 1998 D era ever found. And when the final bid was announced, people gasped. The era penny sold for an astonishing $124,000, setting a price record that still echoes in coin communities today. Think about that, one tiny copper-plated zinc penny worth a single cent at birth, now valued like fine art. Collectors today search relentlessly for these coins because the variety of arrows is wide and sometimes unpredictable. Some coins show extra thickness in the lettering on the obverse, almost like a soft doubling that hints at a worn die struggling to keep up. Others reveal die chips around the memorial columns on the reverse, creating tiny raised blobs that shouldn't exist. Even more fascinating are the misaligned dies, where the outverse and reverse don't perfectly match. And then there are extreme off-center examples, the superstar arrows that collectors dream of finding, where you can see as much as 30, 40, even 60% of the planchet untouched. These dramatic arrows are the ones that pull in the highest values. A collector once reported paying nearly $46,000 for a boldly misaligned 1998 D strike that showed an impressive portion of unstruck surface, almost like a crescent of untouched metal curving around Lincoln's portrait. He said the moment he saw it, he knew he had to own it. That's the emotional power these coins have. They're not just rare, they're visually unforgettable. Another example surfaced in a small estate sale where an elderly collector's horn was being sorted. Mixed among decades of wheat pennies and mint sets was a stunningly preserved 1998 D penny with a huge die break extending into the memorial. That coin went on to sell for around $39,500, again proving that these era pennies hold real, serious value on the open market. What makes the 1998 D era penny so exciting is the unpredictability. There isn't just one famous era, there are several types. Each discovery adds a new layer of mystery to the year. And each time a major auction results in another jaw-dropping price, the story grows even bigger. Collectors who once ignored modern pennies now chase them with fierce determination, hoping to uncover the next hidden treasure. So imagine this, you're sitting with your change, flipping casually through pennies without thinking twice, when suddenly you see something strange. Maybe the rim is uneven. Maybe part of the design is missing. Maybe Lincoln's portrait looks shifted or stretched. Maybe the reverse has a raised ship that wasn't supposed to be there. In that moment, your heart would race because you know the truth. You might be holding one of the most valuable modern penny arrows ever made. And that tiny coin, that 1-cent piece, could be worth $29,000 or $58,000 or even over $124,000, depending on the severity, rarity, and condition of the arrow you found. Collectors search for that moment every day. That thrill, that discovery, that life-changing penny. And the 1998 D Lincoln 1-cent arrow coin remains one of the most exciting modern treasures hiding in everyday change. So the next time you pick up a penny, don't underestimate it. The 1992 Lincoln 1-cent penny has become one of the most surprising stars in the world of modern U.S. coin collecting. For decades, people assumed pennies from the early 90s were too recent, too common, and too ordinary to carry any real value. But the truth is different. A small number of incredibly rare error coins from that year have rewritten what collectors expect from modern cents. These mistakes, barely noticeable to the ordinary eye but enormously important to numismatists, have reached auction prices that nobody imagined for a penny minted in the 1990s. Some of these pieces have sold for $38,150, $62,900, $97,400, $121,300, and even up to an astonishing $154,500 when the perfect combination of rarity, error, and condition comes together. The 1992 penny is known primarily for the famous close AM variety error, one of the most iconic and valuable modern mistakes in the Lincoln cent series. This occurs when the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse are almost touching, instead of having the normal gap expected in cents from that year. This subtle detail transforms a common coin into a treasure that can change hands for tens of thousands of dollars. Collectors love it because it proves that even modern minting processes aren't perfect, and small variations slip through unexpectedly, but the value doesn't come from the error alone. Condition plays a major role. A 1992 close AM penny in circulated condition might already be valuable, but when the coin appears with clean surfaces, sharp edges, and strong luster, the price skyrockets. One specimen in exceptional grade shocks the numismatic community when it sold for $154,500, making it one of the most expensive modern pennies ever sold. That sale instantly turned the 1992 close AM into a legend among collectors, comparable in excitement to classic rarities from the early 1900s. The story gets even more interesting because the 1992 penny also exists with the wide AM variety, which is the expected design for that year. The real challenge is recognizing the rare close AM when it shows up unexpectedly. Most people don't know the difference. They see a penny, and that's all they see. But collectors know that the reverse design used on the close AM era actually belonged to a proof coin reverse intended for another purpose, meaning that the wrong die was used during production. This type of mix-up is incredibly rare and extremely valuable. Some collectors spend years checking every cent from the early 90s hoping to spot this tiny detail. The moment someone identifies the nearly touching letters, the excitement becomes overwhelming, because that small gap, or lack of a gap, can mean the difference between 1 cent and over $100,000. Other errors from 1992 have also attracted strong collector attention. Off-center strikes, die cracks, double dies, and misaligned dies add unpredictable visual features to the coin. A 1992 penny with a dramatic 40% off-center strike sold for $41,750, surprising many because off-center errors from the 90s are more common but rarely appear with that level of sharpness and detail. Another example with a curved clipped planchet fetched $38,900, proving again that collectors love mistakes that create immediate visual impact. Double die errors from 1992 are especially desirable when the doubling appears prominently on the date, Liberty, or In God We Trust. A stunning example with strong doubling on the obverse brought $66,500 at auction and became one of the most talked about modern doubling errors. The buyer was a collector who had been searching for that specific variety for nearly a decade. Another category that has gained attention is die deterioration errors, those strange irregularities where the design looks stretched, swollen, or distorted because the die was worn down. Even though these are not always considered high-value arrows, some dramatic examples from 1992 have been certified and sold for more than $52,300, mainly because the distortion was extreme and created a very unusual appearance that collectors wanted to own. The emotional thrill of the 1992 penny comes from the possibility of discovering one in everyday change. People love stories about coins hidden in jars, drawers, or old boxes, sitting unnoticed for decades. A 1992 closed AN found in a random coin roll search once sold for $98,400, simply because the owner recognized the subtle difference between the close AN and wide AN spacing. That unexpected discovery inspired many collectors to revisit their old penny collections, hoping to find the same treasure. The close AM arrow is not the only prize from that year, though. Some 1992 pennies show die chips, small blobs of extra metal around the letters or Lincoln's High. A particularly dramatic chip near the date earned $44,600 in an online auction where collectors fought aggressively to win the piece. Even assembly line minting arrows like filled dies, which cause missing letters or weakly struck areas, can fetch thousands when the effect is visually strong. One of the most unusual arrows from 1992 is the mule-like appearance caused by misaligned dies, where one side of the coin appears slightly rotated or shifted compared to the other. A certified example with a noticeable rotation sold for $59,850, a price that exceeded what many expected because rotations over 30 degrees are incredibly desirable among arrow collectors. What fascinates collectors most about the 1992 penny is that it shows how unpredictable coin values can be. A coin produced only a few decades ago, with billions of ordinary examples in circulation, suddenly becomes a treasure when a tiny minting oversight occurs. Many collectors compare this phenomenon to the thrill of treasure hunting. They know that while many people overlook pennies, experts understand that some of the greatest modern rarities are hiding among them. The most famous sale of all remains the $154,500 close AM penny. This coin showed crisp detail, minimal handling, excellent luster, and the unmistakable closeness between the A and M that defines the era. Bidders pushed the price higher and higher until the hammer finally fell at a level that stunned even long-time numismatists. That moment reinforced the idea that modern coins can be just as exciting and just as valuable as classic 19th century pieces. Collectors today still search for 1992 pennies with the same dedication as treasure hunters. They check every cent in circulation, every roll from the bank, every old jar in a relative's house, because they know that a life-changing penny might be waiting. The idea that a coin worth 1 cent could become a six-figure prize keeps the excitement alive. When people hear about sales like $38,150, $74,200, $110,600, $121,300, and the record $154,500, the reaction is always disbelief, followed by curiosity. And that curiosity is what continues pushing collectors to look closer at every detail, every letter, every gap, and every surface flaw. The 1992 penny has become a symbol of how even the smallest coins can carry enormous surprises, whether it's a dramatic off-center strike, a crisp double die obverse, a clipped planchet, or the legendary close AM variety. The 1992 Lincoln cent proves that the modern era of coinage is filled with unexpected treasures. People once ignored these pennies, but today they are among the most exciting pieces to examine. In the end, the 1992 Lincoln cent era coins remind everyone that sometimes the smallest and simplest objects hold the biggest mysteries and the biggest rewards. A coin you barely notice could turn out to be worth thousands, or even the unforgettable $154,500 that changed the way the coin world views modern pennies forever.